Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this three-part learning series, Creating a Company Culture. One of the most important and impactful areas to focus on within your organization is the company's culture. If there is no solid foundation, it will be difficult and cumbersome to anchor your team's focus and productivity. In this three-part series, Linda will take you through the steps necessary to create a solid and rewarding company culture. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hi everybody, this is Linda, and today we're going to talk about culture. Now this is the first of a 3-series course. This first course, we're going to really focus on what makes up our culture. You know, if we don't know what makes our culture, then it's going to be very difficult to try to improve it or to try to change it. So in this course, we're going to focus on what are the 4 areas, the 4 categories that we really need to focus on when we're trying to describe, illustrate, or even change our culture. So we have 4 key areas that create our culture. Now keep in mind, everybody has a culture. Sometimes we just think of a company with a culture that has a good culture. But you know, your culture could be unhealthy or even bad. These same 4 categories exist both in good cultures and in bad cultures. I think you'll see that as we go through these. Let's start with the first one, attitude. How we behave. Now, you wouldn't think attitude would be part of a culture, but it really is. In fact, it's a big part of our culture, and it's usually the piece that we can observe first. When I walk into your organization, how do I feel, and how's it, what do I hear? Typically, the attitude is the first thing that people will notice, and it's also the first thing that attracts new hires to your company, and it could be the first thing that drives good employees away. Is it a positive environment, or is it negative? What are people saying? Do they have positive affirmations in their communication, or is it more negative? Are they looking at the dark side of every situation? How we interact and treat others, either other teammates. How are we working with them? How do we work as a team? Shows our attitude. And in fact, it's our personal outlook and how we bring that to work with us each day. And sometimes I know it's difficult when we have personal situations going on to not bring that into the office. But being able to know that the people on my team, I spend more time with them than I do sometimes my family. So I want to make sure that it's a positive environment, because it's that positivity that makes things, first of all, better for us, makes things a lot more fun at work, doesn't it, when they're more positive. Our attitude sets the tone for the environment. So who we are and how we act with one another is crucial. And that is a huge part of our culture. Now, many people think, well, I'm not accountable for, attitude is not something I'm accountable for. It certainly is. Attitude is something that we can control. That's the good thing. And so our culture will breed that. So make sure we don't underestimate what kind of attitude you have as an individual as well as our team. Now, when you say, I can't affect the culture, I'm just one person, yet you can affect your attitude, can't you? In fact, you'll see with all 4 of these, you'll be able to change and affect and bring out great things in your culture, because our culture is just a culmination of everybody having the right spirit, doing the right things. Attitude, it's key. Now the next category that creates a good or a bad culture is competency. Can we get the job done? And more so, how do we get the job done? Now this pertains to the quality of your work. Is your group innovative? Are they always looking for ways to improve on things? How's their customer service? And our sales and service. Are we just a sales-driven organization and then we falter on the service side? Or vice versa? Our urgency in how we care for what we do, whether it's on a team, coming through with a project, or with our customers. Results-mindedness, and then accountability to producing. Now, all of these categories might not fit in every single organization, but what I know every single organization needs is good, competent people. And sometimes I've actually seen and been a part of a culture that was okay with just okay. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't great, but it was just good enough. Do you have a just good enough culture? Or do you have a culture that says, no, we're going to push the elements. We're going to raise it to the roof. We're going to elevate ourselves. Those cultures drive great competence because people want to do better. It's like when I went to school in college. I played basketball. I was very fortunate and loved to sports, and I love basketball, and I was able to obtain a scholarship. So I was very blessed in that area. But I didn't want to just be an athlete at school. And I joined a team. In my junior year, I transferred. And I joined a team and realized that the grade point average of that team was extremely high. And the coach was telling me that it's really what they want are not just good ball players, but they also want kids that are excited about school and that are excelling in school. And so I went into a new college. Now, my first college I went to, that wasn't it. It was, let's play ball and let's win. Now, I made good grades. I made decent grades. But when I moved to this new team with a new expectation on competence, I ended up graduating with honors. I graduated cum laude, and I love to tell that story. But I wouldn't have, I don't think, if I hadn't joined that team. Now, I'm competitive, but there was something about being on this team that said, I got to lift up my game, because that's the new culture I was in. I was in a culture that drove not only success on the basketball court, but success in the classroom. That's what a culture can do. It can actually help individuals do better and be better because they're part now of a culture, not just an individual on their own. So what is the competence of your organization? Do you push the elements? Do you want to be great, or is it just to get by? You take that and mix it with the attitude that we just talked about, and you've already got a pretty good standard for a culture, or perhaps there's some opportunity for you to improve. And how yucky would that be to enter a company that not only was okay with getting by, but also kind of had a sour attitude? In fact, I bet those two go hand in hand. I bet there's a laziness in an attitude when there's a weakness in the competency level. So you can see how this culture really starts to be, kind of unstoppable sometimes, like this momentum. And who wants to join a company that has a sour attitude and let's just get by competency level? That's right, other people who want to be lazy, other people who want to just get by. And so now we're breeding a culture that many of us don't want. It's not special. The third part of creating our culture would be our standards. Okay, now what are we expecting of one another? What do I expect as a leader of this organization? And I better make sure I'm very clear about it. Because if not, I'm starting to hurt the culture that I've set out. Now that has to do with our values. What values do we have as a company? And making sure that the values of our people work hand in hand with that. Our non-negotiables. What items am I not going to negotiate on? If I'm not going to negotiate on poor customer service, then I've got to make sure that that standard is in place. And when I see a situation in which a person is not performing, I need to quickly address that through coaching, through programs that help that person be better or programs that help that person move into a different position that doesn't require that, or just move on out of the company itself. That's the standard I have to have as a leader. And if I have that, then the company will start to have that. Other players will start to have that. Other leaders within our organization will have that. And, like I said before on the competency, who are we now attracting to our company? And if our attitude is in place, our competency level is exciting, and our standards are set, and we draw a line in the sand that says this is how we are, and this is the expectations. So these are our standards. It's also going to be a place where people will turn people away because they don't have those same standards. It's what we recognize. It's what we reward. By the way, when it comes to rewards, be careful what you reward and make sure it's something that upholds the standards of your company. You know, standards really start to dictate now the competency and the attitude. And you should even have a standard towards the attitude that you're going to keep. Now, when you put a standard down, as a leader, you've got to make sure that that standard is something that you can keep up with. We can't set a standard of making sure everybody comes in on time. We don't want to be a company who, drags in at 8:05. Well, as a leader, make sure you're there at 7:45. Otherwise, you're messing up the same standard of what you want everybody else to keep. So our standards, now be careful with this one, because as you create standards or you create non-negotiables in your company, you have to understand that once they're set, you've got to manage those and lead to them. And so the standards right now are probably already set in your company. Even if you haven't put them in writing, even if you haven't discussed them, it's what everybody gets away with is the standard. If I get away with coming in at 8:15 every day, then that's a standard. We start work at 8:15. So it's our actions that dictate those standards. Now they can be changed, and in the second course of this culture series, we'll talk about how do you start changing your culture. What are the things that we need to do to improve on our culture? Now the fourth area and the last is purpose. Why are we here? Now this isn't something necessarily that every person can figure out, but it is something that every person should know. Why does your company exist? Why does that position exist? What's the purpose? So now you're looking at the future. You're looking at the vision of your company, or perhaps it's the mission that you have. And this isn't a mission statement that's hanging on your wall. In fact, yes, we have something on our wall. We don't have a plaque, but we have really our fulfillment factor is what we like to call it. It's our purpose for being here. And that's making sure that we impact the companies that we work with and the people that we get to touch every day. And if we can't impact, then we're not fulfilled. And so our mission is to always to enhance and stay focused on that. And so what a wonderful purpose. We get to ask ourselves when we leave every day, who did I impact today? Or maybe it's how many was I blessed to impact today? But we have a purpose on helping people grow, on improving people's lifestyles. So what is your purpose? What is your company supposed to be doing? And then pull that into something that's fulfilling for you, and perhaps it's your job and what you get to do. How does that impact someone? Every single job out there impacts something. Typically, it always gets back to impacting another person. But if you can connect that, now you start to understand the purpose of what you're doing and the fulfillment factor for what you're doing. What's your cause? When you have a cause, then your environment understands what they're after. And it's not, guys, to be profitable. Our mission, our vision, our future, our fulfillment factor isn't to be a profitable company. The profits will come as a result of what you're doing that will fulfill and impact something. So there you have it. Just 4 easy, simple things, right, that we've got to look at. These are the things that make up our culture: attitude, competency, standards, and purpose. Now, here's what I'd like for you to do with this before you go on to the next course. I'd like for you to just write those 4 things down in your notes. And then I would like for you to put down descriptors underneath each of those. What is your attitude culture like? What do you think it is on a scale of 1 to 10? Where is it? Where's your competency, standards, and purpose? Go ahead and just rank each of those currently and how you think it rates right now. And then I want you to write descriptors on how you can make it better. What do you want it to be like? If it's a negative environment right now, do you want it to be positive? And if so, describe what that positivity sounds like and what it looks like. And try to write descriptors to it. Now, what you've done is you've laid out your vision for your culture. Don't worry that you're not there yet. That's okay. You have to define it first. Figure it out. And then you can work towards it. We'll talk about working towards it in the next course. You do not have to be the leader of the organization, by the way, to do this. The culture is what it is. The culture is what the people want it to be. The leader just leads it. Hopefully the leader verbalizes it. But if they don't, and if you're in a situation where that is not present, that's okay. Create it yourself. Start small. Start in your division, in your department, and then groundswell it. You can actually impact the culture of your company because you can impact your attitude, your competency, your standards, and hopefully you can figure out the purpose of why you're there. And then you can excite and motivate those around you to do the same thing. And over time, it's going to become a very fulfilling department or team to be on. And people are going to start to notice. Certain people are going to want to join your team. Others won't want to be a part. That's when you know it's working. Have fun with this. Enjoy this. This is an important assignment, so please take the time to write that down. And then we'll regroup on the next course and dig a little bit deeper into some of the things we need to do to impact our culture.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of our Creating a Company Culture series. We'd also like to invite you to access part 2 and 3 of this complimentary e-course by following the link provided below in the description of this video. Again, thank you for joining Impacting Leaders e-Training.